details this week, and you guys had a little bit of time yesterday to try to find some key details in a passage that we were talking about yesterday. Now remind me, when I'm asking you for the main idea, what am I asking you to tell me about something we're reading? What am I asking you about, Zanaya?
What you read?
Well, what I read, but what a little bit more specific than that. What are you thinking, Amajay?
What's the story telling you about?
What's the story in this case, since we're doing nonfiction? What's the text mainly about? And those details that we started talking about yesterday are what support that or prove what that story is mainly about. Now, today we are going to look at a different piece of nonfiction text. I told you that while you guys read nonfiction books, there are other forms of nonfiction text, such as what? Who remembers? We looked at a few of them. I put one up on the projector. Jamari.
The bullprint.
The what? Bullprint is part of nonfiction text, but what are some of the different ones? So for example, we can read nonfiction books. What other nonfiction sources do we have, Khalees? Index is part of nonfiction. What other things? I know we have nonfiction books. What else do we have, Amajay? Nope, not details. You guys are giving me a lot of really great information about what's in a nonfiction text. I want other examples. They don't just exist as books, Shiloh. Nope. Think, guys, we talked about this a little bit before those snow days. Zanai. Nope. Kiki. No. So bring it back. Zanai.
Newspaper.
Newspapers is one awesome example. What's another example, Kiki? Maps are an example. Elder.
Photograph.
Do you have a question? Is this something else? All right, hold on to it for a moment. I'll come to you. Zanaya. Magazines. Perfect. So, there was one other. I don't know if anyone remembers it. It starts with a T. Keandre?
Is it an index?
Maja.
This is so cool.
Not text features, textbook. Textbooks. Awesome. So, awesome ideas. And we are going to look at a different form of nonfiction text today. So, there you hit the lights. We are going to be looking at a nonfiction article from a very special magazine called Time for Kids. Now, I'm going to project it up here and I'm going to read it to you. And we're going to try to figure out as a group what the main idea of this article is and what key details we might have to support that this is the main idea. So as I'm reading, your eyes are up here, your voice is off. I'm going to move the article down as I read. This article is called Testing the 5-Second Rule. So everyone has their eyes up here, their mouth off. Majay's eyes are on the screen. Khalees's eyes are on the screen. Eric, instructions are eyes are on the screen. You're choosing to look down at your pencil. Warning next time color. Eyes up here. Testing the 5-second rule. So you may have seen a friend drop food on the floor, pick it up, and eat it. While declaring 5-second rule, the old adage says that food dropped on the floor for 5 seconds or less is still likely to be clean. But is that true?
No.
I don't know. So if you think that's true, give me a thumbs up silently. Or if you don't think that's true, give me a thumbs down. Or if you're not sure, you can give me a thumbs to the side like, Miss Wise, I'm not so sure happy about that. Interesting. All hands are participating. Jamari is participating. Jarvis is participating. Harry and Amari and instructions are participating. You're choosing to participate. Warning next time, I'll let you know. Put it up so I can see it. All right. Hands down, back. You're ready. Position 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Students at Britain's Ashton University, which is a college, led by microbiology professor Anthony Hilton, so a professor's like a teacher, tested the rule and found it to have some scientific basis. The study's results show that food dropped on the floor for 5 seconds is less likely to contain, bacteria or the things that make us sick than if it sits there, according to the Professor Hilton. So some of the results were published in a news release from the university's website. The students also found that the type of flooring, the material the floor is made out of, where the dropped food lands has an effect, so it has an impact. Bacteria are least likely to transfer from carpeted surfaces. So if your food falls on carpet, it's it's less likely to have those nasty germs and bacteria.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, right. But if we have food that falls on laminate or tile, like what we have right on this floor, tile, what our floor is made out of. When moist foods make contact with them, more bacteria is likely to transfer. So there's still a risk of infection if certain bacteria are present or dropped on the surface. So people should still be cautious. However, the findings of this study will bring some light relief to those who've been employing the 5-second rule. For those of you who've been dropping your food and counting 5 seconds, apparently it works. Despite a general consensus that it's purely a myth. So, let me ask you a question. I know there's a lot of big words, and nonfiction text is supposed to inform us of new information. It's more challenging than our fiction text. However, when we were talking and listening about this passage, what is this passage mainly about? What were they testing? What were they curious about? And what are they trying to tell us? What are they trying to tell us, Sana?
When you drop food on the floor, it's not quite dirty, but it is when you drop it on the tile.
Okay, so we know that food might be dirty if it falls on certain surfaces, but what's bigger than that? What is this whole article exploring? What were they even trying to test? What specific thing were they concerned about? Here. For how long, scholars?
5 seconds.
So it's called the 5-second what?
Rule.
And did they say, does the 5-second rule exist?
No.
No.
Whoa. Remember? Yes. But does it apply?
No.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But is the 5-second rule true for all types of floor that our food falls on?
No.
Okay, so what we would say for using our scholarly brains, the main idea, what this passage is mainly about, is the 5-second rule. So the 5-second rule is true. Now, since you all don't have this article in front of you, they mentioned some facts that support that the 5-second rule is true. And some of you all were mentioning these. So all eyes are still up here. Keandre's eyes are up here. Amaje's eyes are up here. Kiki's eyes are up here. What was one of the things that they talked about that would prove that the 5-second rule exists? That you do have 5 seconds before your food gets germs on it. Or that, maybe that we don't get so many germs on our food if we drop it on the floor. What were they talking about? I see the same hands every single time. I love how many scholars are working their brains consistently. What did they tell us, Zanaya? They dropped some food on the floor. And did they find that every single time they dropped food on the floor that it made people sick, or that it had bacteria or germs on it? What? In some situations it did. Sana, help us out.
Scientists found out some kinds of technology that for 5 seconds your food won't 5 seconds your food won't be dirty, but on some type of floors it will.
So on certain floors, when they looked at it, there wasn't a ton of germs, right? So the 5-second rule is true. And what kind of flooring was that? Who remembers? What kind of floors? Was it carpet?
No, tile.
But wait, let's think about it. Let's go back in our article, because good scholars always go back and they reread. The students also found the type of flooring where the food dropped has an effect. Bacteria are least likely, which means they will not be likely to transfer from carpeted surfaces to the food. So they're less likely for the bacteria to go from the carpet to the food if the food falls on carpet. So 5-second rule is true. Based off of when food falls on carpet, are there more germs or less germs?
Less
Less germs. Right. So when food falls on carpet, there are not many germs when they've sat in 5-second periods. What else? Is there anything else that might provide us a little bit more support for this idea that the 5-second rule exists? Kiki, what you thinking? But using our scholarly brains and going back in that article, they said that when it falls on that carpet, that there are less likely to be germs in there. But if it falls on a tile floor like this, there are more likely to be germs. Danielle, what you thinking?
If you put something in the floor, then if you stuff it, then you can't eat it. And then germs all over it.
So maybe, but also, there's another piece of information in this article, looking right up here. Will you eat that? Huh? That's a separate section of this article. When our books have separate sections and they have something that introduces it and tells us we're about to read, what do we call that? What is it called when we see it at the top of a page in a book and it tells us what we're about to read about? Do anyone remember that word that we use when we're trying to figure out what that next section is going to be about here? Thank you. Give me 5 up top. Heading. If you agreed with heading, you can give me a silent one of these because it's awesome. A bunch of my scholars in my guided reading groups today, all about that heading. Awesome job, scholars. So just like in nonfiction books, when we have headings, we can also have headings in our articles. So, will you eat that? Let's find out. To test out the rule, the university students dropped toast, pasta, biscuits, and candy onto a variety of indoor floor types that have been exposed to 2 types of bacteria, the stuff that makes us sick. His eyes are still on me. They measured how much of the bacteria transferred to the food when it was left on the floor after 5 to 30 seconds. Now, they found that, going down in our article, because we don't have to read the whole text to make sure that we're getting the whole gist of it. When they left the food on the floor for 5 seconds, regardless of what type of food it was, there was not a significant amount of bacteria. There was not a ton of bacteria. All eyes are still on me. Voices off. Police's eyes are on me. Keandre's eyes are on me. Tobias, the instructions are your eyes are on me. You're choosing to look behind you. You've already had one warning. This time you need to change your color. So, another supporting detail for us at this point to support the fact that 5-second rule exists, that no matter what type of food fell on the floor, the bacteria didn't exist. The things that make us sick weren't there.